Scott Samuelsen and I have known each other for a long time, longer than I can remember. And he's a really smart person, one of the smartest. He's very smart. And he's a professor at the University of California, Irvine in the Mechanical, Aerospace, and Environmental College. And more importantly, he's national director of the National Fuel Cell Research Center. And really what that is a center that really carries the ball forward on fuel cell research, and particularly how fuel cells integrate into society and may be a bridge for low carbon fuels, for low carbon electricity, and for a lot of the other stuff we've talked about, but we don't know how quite to get there. But I think Dr. Samuelsen has a pretty good idea how to get there. Scott's also incredibly influential in the hydrogen infrastructure program within the state of California. And I know the guys at the California Energy Commission and the California Air Resources Board listen to what he says and take his advice to heart. What he's going to talk to about today isn't science fiction. It really does exist. And it's scary how close we are to doing something really, really revolutionary here in the United States. So I don't want to go too much into it, so I would like to introduce my really, really good friend, Dr. Scott Samuelsen.
I want to start by just reminding ourselves of what we heard about this morning with respect to the demand of the world on energy. Shown here is the demand, it's represented by the year 2000 to 2020, going upward with transportation and electrical power being very large components of that energy future. If we transition this into the greenhouse gas intensity, it's proportional to a large extent. We're going to have the evolution again of the greenhouse gas intensity going up in the years to come, and transportation and electricity again play a major role. With respect to greenhouse gas intensity, there are many different species at play in the troposphere, and today we've been talking about, and I will during my presentation, carbon dioxide. To focus on transportation, let's look at the automobile and our use of combustion to take that energy bound in the fuel and to transform it into thermal energy. And with that, we can do something useful, like propel the vehicle. I'm kind of proud of that animation, so let me do it in slow motion. Useful power, did you see that? Kind of slick. And the other product that comes out of this is, unfortunately, the exhaust. Unfortunate in that it does cause us an environmental impact. What we do in mechanical engineering is to represent this by a box with fuel and air going into the box, the combustion producing the thermal energy, and then from that driving a piston or turning a turbine to produce useful power. And then again we have the exhaust. And whether it's electrical power generation or transportation, this particular strategy that we've used in engineering for more than 100 years produces today over 80% of our power. Remember, whether transportation or the provision of electrical energy. We have to focus, though, why we are in a situation of considering change. And it's that exhaust, which is comprised of this greenhouse gas right here, carbon dioxide, and then pollutants, which lead to, among other things, photochemical oxygen, or what we call smog. And a picture to put this into context is shown here. It's a rather thought-provoking picture, which shows the volume of the Earth, and then superimposed upon it the volume of air that's associated with that Earth. And we have to remind ourselves that this thin skin around the Earth is only 10 miles deep, and a very precious commodity, which we contaminate with this exhaust. And Mother Nature is saying, with respect to greenhouse gas, enough. And she's saying, with respect to pollutant emissions, enough. And where that leaves us is with combustion providing 80% of the world's power. Right here, shown here, 94% of the world's carbon dioxide, and over 90% of the world's pollutants. This is a slide that you may want to put on your wall just to focus on this challenge that we've heard about this morning. But another aspect that you do not hear much about is this aspect right here. We're not only contaminating the atmosphere with exhaust, but we're utilizing air as well to operate our combustion process. And a marvelous question for you to ask of your colleagues is, in a tank full of gasoline, how much air will you process? How many pounds? And air is kind of light, so you come out with 10 pounds, 20 pounds. And this air, it's a ton of air that will be processed through one tank full, about 160 pounds of fuel. And that will be mostly nitrogen, right? It is mostly nitrogen, but it's also oxygen. And so we're consuming about 400 pounds of oxygen every time we consume a tank full of gasoline, and expecting Mother Nature to somehow, replenish that. What this has done is to lead to this paradigm shift. We've been talking this morning about transportation. There's a similar one going on with respect to electrical power generation. These are the forces as we go down that list: climate change, urban air quality, petroleum dependence, fuel independence, and national security. For that today, in my presentation, I'll be focusing on the climate change. And then there's the response to that, and that's what we heard about also this morning: transportation, electrical power, conservation, community design. A very nice presentation on the aspects of community design this morning, building design. And today, in my presentation, I'll be focusing on transportation. So I'll just take those two elements. That'll take us back to this vehicle, where now we have the major products of combustion, and we also have now the knowledge of these pollutant species that are associated with combustion. An automobile today which operates at around 16% overall efficiency, and remember this 2,000 pounds of air that it's going to consume.